Nothing left to make me feel small. Luck has left me standing so tall.
Welcome to Computer Corner, and I'm in here today because I want to talk about my experience with Midjourney. Midjourney is a machine learning system that feels like it's been trained on all the artists and all the art styles in the whole world, although that can't be true. It kind of acts like it. And then you use that system based on text prompts to generate images in the style of various artists and just general art styles. Now, as of today, it's still in beta, so I can't really show the interface because it's not representative of how the final thing is going to work. But instead, I can probably explain it best using this over here. Here we can see a whole load of cubes generated in a bunch of different styles. Now, none of these artists have actually painted these cubes, obviously. This is just what the machine learning system thinks a cube would look like if it were done in that style. So over here we've got Henry Bacon, and then we've also got an actual style, post-war Europe down here. But there's also other stuff like PlayStation 2 and Comic Core as an aesthetic that it'll have a go at doing a cube in. Some more examples using crowds this time. We've got our Damon Hirst up here where it's put a small crowd in a tank, and then we have things like Aztec art and paper cutouts down here. One last example is just landscapes. Again, none of these artists painted these landscapes. This is just what the system generates based on the keyword landscape or from all the imagery that it's been trained on. Now, the second half of Midjourney is the natural language parsing, and I'm kind of putting natural in quotes there because you talk to it in the same way you kind of phrase Google searches. It's this weird kind of language where you're communicating with the computer and meeting halfway between the two. Again, I think the best way to show this is with another set of examples. Just a quick warning, this does involve spiders. So if you don't like spiders, then skip to the time on my hand here, and we can carry on after that. So let's get back to the examples over here. So if we start with just a simple word like spider, we have a machine learning version of what it thinks a spider looks like. But then we can start adding a modifier to it. So here's a spider god, which is a much more impressive looking spider, and there's another one. But maybe we want things just a little bit smaller, so we're going to come up with a tiny spider god. And then another modifier that's quite popular within Midjourney is to throw cute on things. So now we have a tiny cute spider god. You can then add more sort of bits to it. So here's one made of teeth and bones, where we get a couple of different teethy bony spiders. Then you can add an artist onto it as well. So now I'm saying, now I want it to be a bit more Klimty. Or I can throw a couple of artists on it. So here we are again, a tiny cute spider god made of teeth and bones in the style of Kandinsky and Gerard. But at this point, I've gone perhaps too far down the road of bones and teeth, so I can take that off and sort of put it back to here. Now I'm back here, what happens if we use a different artistic medium like watercolor, for example? We can have this. So as you can see, you can start building up all these things added to each other. So here's Leonardo da Vinci pen and ink drawing of a helicopter in the style of Japanese manga. Now, I feel as though it's maybe dropped the manga part of it, but it's definitely given a go, and you can see all those different elements in there. So when I'm talking about natural language, you seem to have quite a lot of success with going artist, medium of a thing in the style of artist, 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 or style, 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 or a combination of those things. For example, Jeff Koons' oil painting of a tree in the style of Rembrandt sculpture and hyperrealism. And if you're curious, that's what this looks at. And you can kind of see the Jeff Koons shiny, the Rembrandt, the tree. It's all kind of in there mixed together. And clearly this is a new thing coming out of the machine learning system. I had a session with the family that felt a bit like a Victorian parlour game. We were all sat around looking at the TV, calling out different artists and different art styles, and then someone would say one thing and it'll make somebody else think of a different thing, and it'll go back and forth like that. It felt really kind of old-fashioned in a way, but what I think I'd really like is like a magical digital frame that's on the wall, and now and again you can just go, hey frame, please give me David Bowie as a cowboy riding a moose by Francis Bacon. and then it would just appear. That would entertain me a lot. They do, however, kind of all have this very similar soft edges, smooshy kind of look that you often get with computer-generated generative art. It's a bit like Google's Deep Dream, all has a very similar look. Now and again, you see someone post something onto Twitter going, oh, here's my generative art of such and such. And that feels maybe a little bit low effort because it's kind of like, I just typed some words into a thing and it gave me the result. It feels like there ought to be a little bit more to it than that. However, as an artist friend of mine, Amy Goodchild, said, Midjourney is a pretty good inspiration machine, and that's what I'm going to talk about in a moment. So we're going to get this out of the way right at the start. Steal Like an Artist is a fantastic book. Everybody should have a copy of it. Let's jump to page 7 and read a couple of bits from it. When people call something original, 9 times out of 10 they just don't know the reference or the original sources involved. What a good artist understands is nothing comes from nowhere. All creative work builds on what came before. Nothing is completely original. And I want to go to this over here. Good theft versus bad theft. So good theft down here is honor, study, steal from many, credit, transform, remix. Now Midjourney is actually very good at helping us steal from many, transform and remix. So as a tool, it's already helping us. I also want to have a look at the art of creative thinking. If we jump to page 196, here we go. Everyone has influences. The reason the great artists cluster together geographically is so that they can learn from each other. And while that was true historically, we now have like Slacks and Discords where groups of artists gather to learn from each other. I remember one day when Huron Griss told me about a bunch of grapes that he'd seen in a painting by Picasso. The next day, those grapes appeared in a painting by Griss. This time in a bowl. And the day after, the bowl appeared in a painting by Picasso. So this is borrowing again from each other. So to get the ball rolling then, copy other creative people's ideas. Why not? It's a starting point. Copying is misunderstood by people who are not creative. One more thing. Big magic here. So this is by Elizabeth Gilbert, and she says, I believe that our planet is inhabited by not only animals and plants, bacteria and viruses, but also ideas. Ideas are driven by a single impulse to be made manifest. And the only way an idea can be made manifest in our world is through collaboration with a human partner. It is only through humans' efforts that an idea can be escorted out of the ether and into the realm of the actual. Therefore, ideas spend eternity swirling around us searching for available and willing human partners. When an idea thinks it's found someone, say you, who might be able to bring it into the world, the idea will pay you a visit. It will try to get to your attention. Mostly, you won't notice. There's also something said by Alan Moore, the wizard Alan Moore, that's very similar to what Elizabeth has to say. Instead of the ideas swirling all around us, there's this thing called idea space, which is like a separate realm to us where ideas stalk and walk, trying to find a way through into our realm to become manifest. And the idea is that by practicing rituals or doing certain things, you can make the veil between the two worlds a lot thinner so those ideas can come through. So am I saying that Midjourney is some kind of magical alchemy where if you put all the words in the right order, it will open a portal for an idea to put forth? I don't think so, but as a tool, I do think it's useful for doing things like that. And it's something that has gone way back in time, but also the Dadaists, and then William Burroughs with his cut-up technique, where you take a page of text and you cut it and then realign it to see whether any thoughts or ideas come out from this newly arranged set of words. And as William Burroughs said about his cut-up technique, when you cut into the present, then the future leaks out through it. And I think that's what's happening here with Midjourney. So let's get on to how I actually use it. Computer Corner, where there's one last set of slides showing you how I use Midjourney to make small jumps and large jumps through ideas to try to explore an idea space or get somewhere. So let me just show you, it's a lot easier. So what I'm doing is I'm starting with a prompt. So here's an alien planet spaceport in the style of a color gradient and Klimt and Grad. And what Midjourney does is it gives you these 4 thumbnails of different options, and then you can pick one. You say, actually, I want to drill into, in this case, number 3, and then it does a larger version of it. And the next thing you can do is you can say, oh, with this one, I quite like it, but can you give me 4 new variations of it? And it'll generate those for you. And again, you can pick 1 or 2 and drill into them. So I decided to do number 1 and number 3. And then I quite like number 3. So I said, hey, can you give me some more variations on that? It gave me 4 more variations, and I then picked number 2 because I quite liked it. So we can see here where we started and then where we ended up by going through variations. But actually I preferred going back to the start and maybe picking something a little bit more desolate, like the 4th one. So I said, can you give me 4 more variations on this? Which it does. And then I picked the first one because I kind of like the shapes going on there. Once more, asking it for variations, and then I end up with this one here. Now these have been quite small steps as I've slowly moved through variations and variations and variations. Now I'm going to come back out of Midjourney to try to find a bigger jump using Pinterest. So here I've saved some of the images into Pinterest, and then it's already given me some ideas to the board, but I can click through to here and then it's given me a whole lot of ideas based on all of the images that I've added to this board. So there's a variation of things I can use here. But what I really want is just to have variations on one of them. So if I pick the one that I really liked at the end and then see what other things it's offering to me, then I can start clicking through as kind of large jumps. So I kind of like this image, and then I'm going to go from here, and then I'm going to try something quite a bit different. So these color gradients, and then I've got quite a way away. I like orange. And then let's see what else there is. This cat's kind of cool. Let's go for the cat. And looking again here, into 70s design. This green over here, that's another jump away. Let's see if we can pull it back a little bit. So let's keep looking. This is all a bit the same. Actually, over here, so there's a space age over here. Bring this back to space a little bit. Actually, I quite like this first one here. And then, there's a red robot. So let's take this robot, and now what you can do with Midjourney is you can actually take that image and then feed it back into Midjourney as not as part of the training set, but as a basis to then start generating new things. So let's see how that works. Having told Midjourney to use that red robot as source material, it's generated both this image and then also this image here. So I've picked this one. Again, we go through the variations and variations. So we move across and move across and move across. I quite like this one here. So then I've said to it, can you please do this, but in the style of Saul Bass, the poster designer. And now I've got this. Going through variations again, we get to this, and then this, more colourful over here. And then I've asked it to apply a different painting style to it that's given us this, and then another variation here. But what I can do now is take that image and the original image, so I can start to tune the image back to the original thing I had. So I'm like, this and this please, which gives me this result. And then I can take it even further back towards the original image by saying, can you please use both of these images again? And now we're at this situation here. Now I kind of like the red robot, so I can say to it, take this image and the red robot we had a while back, and now I'm at this result here, which actually I kind of like. And this is quite a long way away from where I first started, but now I've got myself a new image. So by asking for Midjourney for variations and then variations and variations, dropping those into Pinterest, getting more inspiration from Pinterest, finding something else to pull back into the system, and then sort of steering where you want the image to go by blending images together, you can quickly kind of explore this space and get to somewhere where you didn't think you were going to be at the start. And that's how I ended up with What If Rothko painted desert landscape. So, along with the Rothkos, there's a few other things I've discovered while playing with Midjourney that I'm probably going to work with. But in the meantime, let me just set this plot away.
After the rush has gone, I hope you find a little more time. Remember we were partners in crime. It's only 2 years ago, the man with the suit and the face, who knew that he was there on the case. Now he's in love.